how's it going? Today we are going to be making scale mail armor for the very first time. Okay. During our very first trip to the Ren Fair, we purchased this beautiful piece of scale mail armor, complete with a top, shoulder pieces, and a choker. And I absolutely love it. It was my very first piece of armor anything. The design is gorgeous, it fits wonderfully, and the craftsmanship is incredible. And I always play with it when I wear it. The only problem is I don't really have a complete outfit to go with it. That's not entirely true. It goes with a lot of different pieces, but I want to make a matching fantasy scale mail set around it. My voice wavered a little bit. Since we already have the top and shoulder pieces, I want to make a full skirt and bracers to complete the look.
What was this?
Bracers for your arms.
Oh, okay.
Jazz hands. But before we start playing with rings and scales, I am going to sketch out the idea for this armor that I have floating around in my noggin. And the other only problem is that I've never made any sort of chainmail or scale mail before, but that's a problem for later. Really hot.
Oh,
no. It's hot and I'm dewy. I'm a North baby stuck in the South. And baby want out! The sketch is finished. This is what I envision this armor set to look like. The bracers will be small, straightforward, and simple. I kind of modeled them after the shape of the shoulder pieces, pauldrons. The skirt, however, will be not small. It will be floor length, or almost floor length, more like gently kissing the floor, like that's it. I also plan on adding clasps to the back of the skirt, because if this thing is going to end up weighing as much as I think it's going to weigh, I'd really prefer it to not immediately slide off my body. And yes, the skirt has very high slits, and there are two reasons for that. One, I like skirts with high slits. Sounds weird. And two, it means fewer scales will be needed, hopefully. Because as you can see, we are going to need a lot of scales. We counted the scales on the top piece and it came to about 474 scales. There's not even a back to it. The back is all chains. So the skirt is going to be in the thousands. I've seen plenty of photos of scale mail dresses and skirts, but most of them only come to around mid-thigh or higher. Full-length scale mail skirts don't seem to be that common. It makes me wonder if there's a reason why. But I'm stubborn, we both are, and we are going to try our absolute darndest to make this happen, even though we have no idea what we're doing. Not once in our lives have either of us made anything remotely similar to chainmail or scale mail. Nothing. But thanks to today's sponsor, we might have a fighting chance. Since this project relies heavily on chainmail techniques, we wanted to learn the fundamentals first before jumping into scales. So we took a couple of classes on Skillshare. We watched Basics of Chainmail by Ironheart Creation and Make Your Own Copper Bracelet, Introduction to Beginner's Chainmail Weaving by Rory Bristol. Through these two classes, we learned how to work with jump rings, open and close them properly, weave patterns together, create expansions and contractions, and become more familiar with the tools and overall process. Both classes were beginner-friendly, easy to follow, and we were able to use the supplies we already had on hand. One thing I really enjoyed was that each class taught us a different pattern. Basics of Chainmail focused on the European 4-in-1 weave, which we discovered is one of the most common patterns used in chainmail armor. We even learned 2 different methods of linking the pattern together, which I really appreciated because this weave was initially quite tricky. And Introduction to Beginners Chainmail Weaving taught us a simpler 2-in-2 pattern, which was a nice change of pace and helped to reinforce the fundamentals from a different perspective. With the help of these 2 classes, we made these beautiful bracelets, which may or may not become staples in not just our armor sets, but also our everyday wear. Even though this project is focused on scale mail, it was really important to us to learn the foundations of chainmail and see how closely the two are related. And considering this skirt is going to be made up of thousands of interconnected rings and scales, having even a basic understanding of how these patterns work has already made this project feel a lot less intimidating. These are skills we'll be taking with us in future projects and hopefully learning more advanced patterns down the road. Skillshare is a great place to learn creative skills, pick up a new hobby, or dive deeper into something you've always wanted to try. If you'd like to start your own creative adventure, Skillshare is currently offering a 1-month free trial for the first 500 people to sign up. If you would like to check them out, link is in the description and pinned comment below. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now that we have a better understanding of chainmail, I think we can begin adding scales to the party. After a bit of scouring the internet, I think we found the scales that were used for the top pieces, or at least a very close match. We might have ordered a bit much, but we wanted to be safer rather than sorry because these scales did take a bit of time to get here. We did guesstimate how much we were going to need. The chainmail supplier says about 600 to 700 scales. 600 to 700 scales per square foot. So we ordered 6,000 scales and 15,000 rings because each scale is going to need at least 2 rings. And you bet your bottom that any scales we don't use in this project, we are going to use in future projects because now that this skill tree has been unlocked, I shan't be stopped. We also already made a little pile of closed rings and a pile of open rings that have probably coalesced into a nest at this point. But before diving into the skirt, I think we should practice first on something small like the bracers. I'm going to study the pauldrons and try to follow a similar shape and see where that gets us. And then we will check back in. The bracers are complete for now. Oh god. Right now, we're just focusing on the main bodies of these pieces. The chains and straps and decorations will come later. And the design of the bracers sort of changed. My original bracer design had it extending farther up the forearm, where I think it would have constantly wanted to shift and bunch up. Like that. So we shorten them and let them drape over the wrist and the back of the hand instead. And I'm hoping that this is going to work with the material instead of against it. I mean, we could always attach the scale mail to leather or fabric to give it more structure, but I'm hoping with this new design and placement, along with some leather straps along the underside, we can keep everything where we want it, you know? I'm just happy we finished the main body of the bracers, and honestly, they weren't bad to make. I do think scale mail is easier than chainmail. I'm sure with more practice, chainmail would also be easy, but... And I only got stumped once, although it was a doozy. Everything was going great until about the 4th or 5th row, and then I just completely lost track of the pattern. Each row is supposed to have one more scale than the one before it, at least when you're expanding.
Or one less.
Yeah, one more if you're going like this, and one less if you're going like this. Downloaded it now. And I don't know if I accidentally added 2 scales instead of 1, or if I looped the rings in the wrong direction, because apparently that matters quite a bit. But something went wrong, and I didn't realize it at first, so I just kept going, and then I realized something was wrong, but then I didn't know what was wrong. Caleb came to my rescue, and he knew exactly what went wrong right away, and he fixed it for me. And then we continued working on both bracers at the same time, which was pretty cool. Thank you for fixing it for me. It was about 69 scales per bracer. He also went in and edge stabilized both bracers. It keeps the edges more controlled and the scales behave a lot better, and it looks really cool. Now that the bracers are sorted, it's time to start the skirt. Caleb and I are going to tackle this together. I think we're going to build this skirt in 2 sections, a front panel and a back panel, and connect them together later, hopefully. I don't know if this is wise. I'm sorry to any clothiers or armor makers out there who are watching this and are cringing, because we are very obviously doing it wrong. Just flying by the seat of my pants here and hoping it all works out. We welcome any tips. So let's measure my waist, and then I think we are getting started on the waistline. She says with confidence. So we're taking a little break to open more rings because we ran out. I think everything's going well. I'm working on the front panel of the skirt, Caleb's working on the back panel of the skirt. The back panel is going to be a straight across waistline, and then the front is going to have that V, and this is what it looks like so far. We've noticed that when first starting out, if they don't have a lot of weight holding them down, then they don't really lay the way that we're envisioning, or that they will later on, if that makes sense. See, right now it's looking more like a U. If it's pulled down, it's a V, so it just needs more weight. What else? Oh, the back, however, I think is going to need a bit more sustenance to help it keep the shape that we want it to. As you can see, even though it's a perfect rectangle, doesn't look like it when I hold it, but it is. When we pull it tight, the ends pull out and the middle goes in. And I think that's just because, like the front portion, it needs more weight to help pull everything down. But I don't know if that's the whole solution, we did a little bit of research and we were looking at other pieces of scale mail armor. It seems like it's very common that when there's a straight section of scale mail, people will often reinforce it with either a strip of fabric on the inside or a section of chainmail, kind of like this, and then it's not connecting, but you know, connecting the scale mail to the chainmail, and it helps to just keep it where it needs to be. If we can, if we can, we will probably go the chainmail route, maybe have it going around from the back to the front, maybe have it connecting between the V portion. I don't know, but the design will probably continue to change and evolve. And the scale mail is going well. And honestly, it's a breath of fresh air because a lot of times with our past projects, the materials that we're working with are so permanent, like resin or mold making or even soldering with LEDs and stuff. And when we make a mistake or things don't turn out how we'd envisioned, we generally have to start with a new one or go back like 5 steps to figure out what went wrong and what we need to go forward. And there's nothing wrong with those materials. We're going to continue working with those materials, but it is really nice to have, this material is so reworkable. It doesn't have to turn out like perfect on the first try. I'm rambling. Okay, all this to say, we're opening more rings. Things are going this. We are just going to keep building out these panels, seeing how it looks and going from there. Okay. We'll check back in a minute for you guys. Hours for us, perhaps days. We'll see. Okay, checking in. We've made quite a bit of progress. First things first, we've changed the design of the skirt slightly. In the original sketch, the slits came up the sides, but after looking at some reference images of actual skirts, it seems pretty common for the slits to actually sit a bit farther forward with the back panel wrapping around towards the front. So we narrowed the front panel and made the back panel larger to follow that design. Originally, I think the skirt was around 40% front, 60% back, but now I think it's about 20-80. Also, because the back panel is going to wrap around to the front, we decided to add a chainmail section around the waist, kind of like a built-in belt. It'll help hold everything up and in place, and the front panel will attach to that. And, oh god, it's so heavy. The front panel is complete, sort of. We did run into an issue though that we definitely didn't anticipate. It's kind of weird, and I feel like some of you may already know what I'm about to say. We thought the weight of the scales would help keep everything pretty flat, but as the front panel got longer, it started curling in on itself and it looks a bit tube-ish now when we hold it up. I don't really know why this is happening. It could be that the size of our rings are too small for the scale of this piece and the scales that we're using. We looked it up and there seems to be a lot of conversation around this issue and why it happens, how it happens, and how to fix it. There don't seem to be any concrete answers, just like theories and stuff. So I think it's going to be a bit of trial and error, and we're going to do a mix of two things, I think. One, boning with some metal wire around the same diameter as our rings, you know, just like woven through the back of the skirt, or weaving a layer of the European 4-in-1 pattern across the back of the front panel. I think people also recommended, you know, layering fabric as well to help it hold its shape. And I know edge stabilization is also very important, and we are going to edge stabilize the skirt, but I don't know if it's the end-all be-all to fixing this tubing problem because we edge stabilize the bracers and they still curl in on themselves. So boning with metal wire, 4-in-1 weave, and edge stabilization. That's our fix. If you guys have any tips, please let us know. Meanwhile, Caleb has been hard at work on the back panel. The front is basically just a rectangle, while the back has transformed more into like a trapezoid. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like the back is doing that same curling as the front is. I don't know, maybe it's because the front is more narrow.
But it might if it gets long enough.
I don't know. Like I said, we did not anticipate this obstacle. So it's going to be a lot of trial and error. But that is where we're at. We are just going to finish the back panel, bone the front, and then we will check back in again. My God, this thing is heavy. Okay, we have finished the front panel, the back panel, and the chainmail belt.
That's not a real country.
And we've done a few test fits. We ended up narrowing the front panel along the sides again, and we tapered it. So instead of a solid rectangle like it was before, it's now more of like this motion. I'll put up a sketch to show. Because as much as we want this skirt to behave like fabric, and to an extent it does, it is very much not fabric. When I walk, the panels don't really move and flow around my legs like most fabrics would. Instead, they kind of all smack into each other, and it's really noisy and kind of awkward. Narrowing the front panel helped a little, but we realized that the skirt might benefit from a few sneaky clips placed here and there so that we can pin the bottom of the skirt up and out of the way for when I need to walk around. kind of like the little loops used to lift trains on long dresses. This is not the most practical of armors. It is at its best when stationary. Also, and this might be a bit scandalous, but I am no longer worried about how high the slits are. I will never not be wearing something underneath of this armor, whether it's bike shorts or leggings, so I am no longer concerned. And we have fixed the tubing issue, or we will fix it. We have found our process. First, we stabilize the edges. Then we take strips of 18 gauge wire and weave them horizontally through the back of the panel every few rows. We won't add wire to every row because that would be a lot, and I think it would make everything really stiff. But if they're spaced too far apart, it becomes kind of obvious that there's something supporting the underside. We've already finished edge stabilizing the front panel. Now we just need to bone wire the front panel. I'm not committed to that word. Is it so boning if it's wire? Wire bone. Sounds so. Now we just need to add wire to the underside of the front panel and the back panel and edge stabilize the back panel, possibly add more chainmail and add all the chains and clasps. And then I think this armor will be complete. So let's get into final assembly. Okay, I know I said that it's time for final assembly, and it is, but I just wanted to show you guys really quick the decorations and embellishments that we're going to be putting on this armor, because I haven't really talked about them at all. First, here are all the clasps we were considering for the belt. We've tested and played around with all of these, and while I think the snakes are the coolest, I especially really like this snake O-ring, and we will be saving them for future projects. Ultimately, I think we're going to go with this clasp. It's the quickest and easiest to take apart and latch together, especially while trying to balance the weight of the skirt. And for the chains, we have a mix of just store-bought chain bundles and old necklaces. And we also have little metal dangly spiky bits in different sizes that we ordered online. But that is what we're adding to this armor. Also, we tapered the back panel, added another row of chainmail to the belt, and finished edge stabilizing. So now we're just going to get back to the final assembly. Scale armor is complete, and I think it looks great, and it turned out really cool. Honestly, I'm still in awe of the fact that we can sketch something out on paper and then bring it to life. It just makes me so happy. I had so much fun building this skirt and expanding on our existing armor pieces. Learning Scalemail and Chainmail was definitely a test of patience, but it was also really rewarding and fun. It's such a versatile craft, and we can't wait to learn more. The skirt and bracers turned out exactly how we imagined them, and I think they're really unique. Again, not at all practical, but fun. And in case anyone is curious, we weighed everything. The skirt came in at about 9 pounds or 4 kilograms, and the complete set with the skirt, the bracers, the shoulder pieces, necklace, and top came in at about 12 pounds or 5.5 kilograms, which is a lot to wear on a body. Thank you everyone for watching. We hope you enjoyed this adventure. If you did like this video, please consider liking or subscribing or leaving a comment, or all three. And thank you to all of our patrons. Your support means the world to us and helps adventures like these come to life. If you'd like to support the channel or get a behind the scenes look at what we're working on, our Patreon link is in the description below. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now let's have a final look at the finished armor, and we'll see you next time. Bye. See, it's not really like a Scalemail armor, it's armor-ish. It's more like a Scalemail outfit, but that sounds way less cool. Because, I mean, it's made out of metal, but it's not really protecting. Some of the goods are...
Some of the goods are protected.
It's not actually armoring very much. I don't think it would be hard to take me down, you know?